Hi, welcome to another Hive Time. Today I'm filming this video on Green and Gold Day at school. So I'm wearing my green and my gold. I even have my wattle brooch on. It doesn't have a name. And I'm all ready for Australian things. Well, today I've decided that we are going to read an Australian story. This is one of my favorite. It is Possum Magic. It's written by Mem Fox and the pictures are drawn by Julie Vivas. It's a classic. Oh, and I even have a little Hush possum to join me as we're reading today. Let's see what adventures Hush goes on. Possum Magic is an omnibus book printed by Scholastic. Once upon a time, but not very long ago, deep in the Australian bush lived two possums. Their names were Hush and Grandma Poss. Grandma Poss made bush magic. She made wombats blue and kookaburras pink. She made dingoes smile and emus shrink. But the best magic of all was the magic that made Hush invisible. What sort of grandma magic can make Hush invisible? Hush, can you still go invisible? Hush can still go invisible. Let's see what happens. What adventures Hush had had. Because she couldn't be seen. She could be squashed by koalas. Oh dear. Because she couldn't be seen, she could slide down kangaroos. Because she couldn't be seen, she was safe from snakes, which is why Grandma Poss had made her invisible in the first place. What sort of adventures would you have if you could be invisible? It looks like Hush got into lots of trouble. Let's see what happens. But one day, quite unexpectedly, Hush said, "Grandma, I want to know what I look like. Please, could you make me visible again?" "Of course I can," said Grandma Poss, and she began to look through her magic books. She looked into this book and she looked into that. There was magic for thin and magic for fat, and magic for tall and magic for small, but the magic she was looking for wasn't there at all. Grandma Poss looked miserable. "Don't worry, Grandma," said Hush. "I don't mind." But in her heart of hearts, she did. Poor Poss, poor Hush. All night long, Grandma Poss thought and thought. The next morning, just before breakfast, she shouted, "It's something to do with food. People food, not possum food, but I can't remember what. We will just have to try and find out." So, later that day, they left the bush where they'd always been to find what it was that would make Hush seen. They ate Anzac biscuits in Adelaide, Mornay and Minties in Melbourne, steak and salad in Sydney, and pumpkin scones in Brisbane. Have you ever eaten any of those things? Anzac biscuits, Minties, steak and salad, or pumpkin scones? The problem was, Hush remained invisible. "Don't lose heart," said Grandma Poss. "Let's see what we can find in Darwin." It was there, in the very far north of Australia, that they found a Vegemite sandwich. Grandma Poss crossed her claws and crossed her feet. Hush breathed deeply and began to eat. "A shouted both possums at once, for there it was, a brand new visible tail. Later, on a beach in Perth, they ate a piece of pavlova. Hush's legs appeared, and so did her body. "Oh, you look wonderful, you precious possum," said Grandma Poss. Next stop, Tasmania. And over the sea they went. In Hobart, late one night in the kitchen of the casino, they ate a lamington on a plate. Hush closed her eyes and nibbled. Grandma Poss held her breath and waited. "It worked! It worked!" she cried. And she was right. Hush could be seen from her head to her tail. Grandma Poss hugged Hush and they both danced. Here we go, round the lamington plate until early in the morning. Oh, Hush does look very happy. Hush, you appeared. Okay, that's fantastic. So it's lamingtons that are the trick. Okay. From that time onwards, Hush was visible, but once a year on her birthday, she and Grandma Poss ate a Vegemite sandwich, a piece of pavlova, and half a lamington just to be sure that Hush stayed visible forever. And she did. What a great Australian story. But I have something more for you today, because one of your challenges for Bookweek was to look at a cookbook and see if you could make something from the cookbook, either with Play-Doh or pretend food, but it could be with real food too. Now, it was lamingtons that made Hush appear. So I'm going to see whether we can use the Possum Magic cookbook that we have in the hive to make some lamingtons with Hush. Let's see what we can do. Okay, I'm back again. I'm in the hive kitchen and Hush and I are going to see if we can make, now what was it, Hush? Do you remember? That's right, we're going to see if we can make lamingtons. Actually, Hush's fur looks a little bit like a lamington, but let's have a look. Now, in our library we have this book. It is called the Possum Magic Cookbook, and inside are all the special things you can cook that Hush ate during the book. So today we're going to look at lamingtons. There's a recipe for lamingtons, and you can make the cake, but then it also says you can just buy the cake. So I have bought some cake and we're going to cover it with all the lamington icing. Let me put the recipe down here. Now, do you remember or maybe you might not know, one of the things to do when you are cooking is to wear something that protects your clothes. So I've put on an apron and we have to make sure our hands are clean. So I'm going to wash my hands to make sure that they are very nice and clean before we make the lamingtons. Soak them up, get them nice and clean, wash them. All right, let's have a look and see if we can make lamingtons. Now, the things it tells me to have is the cake. Well, I bought the cake part, just the plain cake by itself. So I have the cake ready. And then it tells me that I need, for the chocolate icing, I need some icing sugar, some cocoa powder. Well, I have some icing sugar here. Have a look. I have some cocoa powder. Oh, look at that. That's all the chocolatey bit. Some butter. I have some butter here. Some hot water and some coconut. All right, let's have a look. So in a bowl, I need to mix all of the icing sugar, and I also need to put in all of the cocoa. I've already measured out the cocoa and the icing sugar. and I can use a spoon to mix it all up. All right. Have a look and see what it looks like when I'm mixing it up. Now it says you can use a sieve, but I didn't have a sieve today, so I'm just trying to make sure all those little lumps get mixed up because we are going to make a nice chocolate coating. It doesn't actually look too chocolatey, does it? I wonder what it will look like once we get our butter and hot water in there. The recipe tells me that I need 1 tablespoon of butter, and I do already have that measured out as well. So I'm just going to pop that into our 1 tablespoon and then some hot water. Now on the wall here I have hot water already. If you're going to use hot water at home, you need to make sure mum or dad are helping you. Let me add my hot water, and I need a little bit more. All right, and I'm going to mix and mix and mix. I think I'll mix it all up and I'll see you in a minute. All right, take a look. It's looking more chocolatey now. Look at that. I'm going to mix in all this icing sugar and the butter and the hot water, and it's making almost like a very rich chocolate drink, but it wouldn't be very nice to drink. We're going to use this to dip our lamingtons into, or our cake. All right, I think this is ready. Ready? Oh, that looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. All right. Now, I have nice clean hands still, and I have our big piece of cake, and I'm going to put it down on the board. Can you see that? Yes, I think you can. And I'm going to cut it. Now, if you're using a knife, you might need help from mum and dad as well. I'm going to cut it into little lamington pieces. These can be like lamington finger pieces, I think. Alrighty, we'll get out a fork, and it tells me to put the lamington onto the cake onto a fork, like this. And then I'm going to dip it into the chocolate. Let's have a look and see, will it work? We're dipping it into the chocolate. Oh, it's a very thick chocolate. It might be a bit thicker than what I thought. Look at that. All of that chocolate all over the cake. And then, what's on the outside of lamingtons? Do you know? Hush, do you know? Oh, you're looking after it up there. Let me see. He's got it. The coconut. All right. Maybe you can help me, Hush. Coconut. We're going to put coconut on there. And then the very last bit that we do is to dip it into the coconut. Let's have a look. You ready? We're going to dip it in. Oh, I might get a new fork that doesn't have chocolate all over it. How about that? There we go. There is a fresh lamington. Ready to go. Ready for Hush. Does that look good, Hush? It looks good. All right, maybe you can borrow that book out of the library one time and make something yourself, or maybe you can have a look at what cookbooks you've got at home and make something special for Book Week. Have fun.